Hey everyone, welcome back to Chill English Channel, your calm place for learning English through deep and meaningful conversations. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Jake. We're very happy you're joining us today.
Today's topic is something that sounds simple on the surface, but it has the power to completely change the direction of a person's life.
That's right. Today we're talking about how I slowly got out of my comfort zone.
And before we begin, we'd like to ask you a question. Is there something you've wanted to do for a long time, but you've been putting it off because it feels uncomfortable, uncertain, or a little frightening?
Maybe you've wanted to speak English more often.
Maybe you've wanted to travel somewhere alone.
Maybe you've wanted to apply for a new job, start a project, or meet new people.
Whatever it is, keep that thought in your mind while we talk today.
Because comfort zones affect almost every area of our lives.
And sometimes we don't even realize we're living inside one.
Jake, when you think about your comfort zone in the past, what was it really like?
Honestly, the first word that comes to mind is safe. Everything felt familiar, predictable, and manageable. I rarely felt anxious because I rarely did anything that challenged me.
That doesn't sound entirely bad.
It wasn't. There's nothing wrong with feeling safe. The problem was that I slowly began choosing safety over growth in almost every situation.
That's an important distinction.
Looking back, I realized that my world had become very small. I followed the same routines, talked to the same people, and avoided anything that might make me uncomfortable.
Were you aware of it at the time?
Not really. That's the interesting thing about comfort zones. They don't usually feel like a problem when you're inside them. They simply feel normal.
That's such a good point.
Sometimes people imagine a comfort zone as a place of happiness, but in reality, it can also become a place where we stop growing without even noticing.
Let's teach our listeners an important word here.
Good idea. The word is routine.
A routine is a regular way of doing things, often the same activities repeated every day.
For example, my daily routine rarely changed.
Or, a comfortable routine can sometimes prevent growth.
I think many people can relate to that.
Definitely. Human beings naturally like certainty. We enjoy knowing what will happen next because uncertainty can feel stressful.
And uncertainty is exactly what exists outside the comfort zone.
That's right. Outside the comfort zone, there are new experiences, unfamiliar situations, and the possibility of failure.
Which can sound intimidating.
Very intimidating. In fact, for years, I believed that avoiding discomfort was the smartest thing I could do.
What kind of discomfort were you avoiding?
Small things, mostly. Speaking up when I had an opinion, introducing myself to new people, trying activities where I might not be good immediately.
So it wasn't one huge fear.
No, it was dozens of tiny fears that slowly shaped my life.
That's powerful.
Because people often imagine that life-changing decisions happen in dramatic moments, but many times our lives are shaped by small choices we make every day.
Including the choice to avoid discomfort.
Exactly.
Another useful word here is hesitate.
Hesitate means to pause before doing something because you feel uncertain or nervous.
For example, I hesitated before introducing myself.
Or, fear caused me to hesitate.
I think many English learners experience that feeling when speaking.
Absolutely. Sometimes you know exactly what you want to say, but you hesitate because you're afraid of making a mistake.
And the longer you hesitate, the more difficult it becomes.
That's often true. Fear grows when we repeatedly avoid the things that scare us.
So when did you realize something needed to change?
There wasn't one dramatic moment. It happened gradually. I started noticing how often I was saying things like, maybe next time, or maybe someday.
And what was wrong with that?
The problem was that someday never seemed to arrive. Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. I was waiting to feel ready before taking action.
I think many people do that.
Definitely. We often believe confidence comes first and action comes second.
But that's not usually how it works.
Not at all. One of the most important lessons I learned was that confidence is often the result of action, not the cause of it.
That's such a valuable idea.
Many people think confident people never feel nervous, but most confident people feel fear just like everyone else. The difference is that they don't wait for fear to disappear before moving forward.
That reminds me of another important word.
Courage.
Exactly.
Courage doesn't mean feeling fearless. Courage means taking action even while fear is still present.
For example, courage helped me try something new.
Or, growth requires courage.
So, what was the first step you took?
Honestly, it wasn't anything dramatic. I didn't quit my job, move to another country, or completely reinvent my life.
What did you do then?
I started saying yes a little more often. When opportunities appeared, instead of immediately finding reasons to avoid them, I tried to stay open.
That sounds simple.
It was simple, but it wasn't easy.
There's a difference.
A huge difference. Sometimes growth begins with something as small as joining a conversation, attending an event, or trying a new activity.
Small actions can have surprisingly large effects.
Exactly. Every time I did something slightly uncomfortable, I learned something important.
What did you learn?
I learned that most of the things I feared were not nearly as frightening as I had imagined.
That's often true in life.
It is. The anticipation was usually worse than the actual experience.
Anticipation is another useful word.
Anticipation means thinking about something that is going to happen in the future, often with excitement or anxiety.
For example, the anticipation made me nervous.
Or, my anxiety grew during the anticipation.
So your confidence didn't suddenly appear one day.
Not at all. It grew slowly through small experiences repeated over time. Each challenge taught me that I was capable of more than I had believed.
And that's when your relationship with discomfort began to change.
Exactly. I stopped seeing discomfort as a warning sign that I should turn back.
And what did you start seeing it as instead?
I started seeing it as a sign that I was moving toward growth.
That's a beautiful perspective.
And it completely changed the way I approached new experiences.
Because the goal wasn't to become fearless.
No, the goal was simply to become willing.
Willing to feel uncertain.
Willing to make mistakes.
Willing to look inexperienced sometimes.
And willing to discover what life might look like beyond the limits I had quietly built around myself.
And that's where the real journey began. Next, we'll talk about the unexpected lessons that appeared once you finally started stepping outside your comfort zone. You know, I think that's where many people get confused about growth.
How so?
They imagine that leaving their comfort zone will instantly transform them into a different person.
That's exactly what I used to think. I imagined that confidence would suddenly appear one day and everything would become easy.
But that wasn't your experience.
Not at all. In reality, growth felt much quieter than I expected. There was no dramatic moment where I suddenly became fearless. Instead, there were dozens of small experiences that slowly changed how I saw myself.
I think that's encouraging to hear.
It was encouraging for me, too. Once I stopped expecting huge changes overnight, I became more patient with myself.
Patience is such an important part of personal growth.
Definitely. Many people become discouraged because they want immediate results. They take one step outside their comfort zone, still feel nervous, and assume nothing's changing.
But growth doesn't always feel dramatic while it's happening.
Exactly. Sometimes growth is invisible at first.
That's a beautiful way to describe it.
Looking back, one of the first lessons I learned was that fear and danger are not the same thing.
Explain what you mean.
For years, I treated uncomfortable feelings as warning signs. If I felt nervous, I assumed I shouldn't do something.
Almost as if discomfort meant something was wrong.
Exactly. But eventually I realized that many valuable experiences feel uncomfortable in the beginning.
That's very true.
Meeting new people can feel uncomfortable.
Learning a new skill can feel uncomfortable.
Speaking English can feel uncomfortable.
Even positive changes can create discomfort.
That's because growth often requires entering unfamiliar situations.
Let's teach our listeners an important word.
Good idea.
The word is unfamiliar.
Unfamiliar means something that is new or not well known to you.
For example, I felt nervous in unfamiliar situations.
Or, growth often begins in unfamiliar places.
I like that sentence.
Me too.
Another thing I've noticed is that people often underestimate themselves.
That's something I learned firsthand. Before trying something new, I would focus entirely on what could go wrong.
And what happened after you actually tried?
Most of the time, I discovered I was more capable than I believed.
That's interesting because confidence seems to grow through evidence.
Exactly. Every small challenge became evidence that I could handle more than I believed.
So confidence wasn't built through positive thinking alone.
No. Positive thinking can help, but real confidence came from experience.
That's an important distinction.
Imagine someone who wants to learn swimming. They can spend years reading about swimming and imagining themselves swimming confidently.
But eventually, they need to enter the water.
Exactly. Experience teaches lessons that thinking alone cannot teach.
I think that applies to many areas of life.
Definitely. Relationships, communication, public speaking, travel, learning languages, all of these require experience.
Another lesson people learn outside their comfort zone is that mistakes are rarely as terrible as they imagine.
That realization changed a lot for me.
Why?
Because I spent years trying to avoid mistakes. I thought mistakes were proof that I wasn't good enough.
Many people think that way.
Especially perfectionists.
Ah, yes. Perfectionism can be a huge barrier.
Definitely. Perfectionism often sounds like having high standards, but sometimes it's really fear disguised as self-improvement.
That's a powerful observation.
When you're obsessed with doing everything perfectly, you become afraid to begin.
Because you don't want to fail.
Exactly. But once I started trying new things, I realized something surprising.
What was that?
Most people don't expect perfection from us.
That's true.
They expect effort. They expect honesty. They expect us to be human.
Human beings are naturally imperfect.
And that's what makes connection possible.
Another thing I've noticed is that people often feel embarrassed when they're beginners.
I felt that all the time.
Why do you think that happens?
Because being a beginner reminds us that we don't know everything. It puts us in a vulnerable position.
Vulnerable is such an important word.
Vulnerable means being emotionally open to uncertainty, criticism, or failure.
For example, learning something new made me feel vulnerable.
Or, growth requires vulnerability.
That's another sentence worth remembering.
100%.
The funny thing is that everyone starts as a beginner.
Exactly. Every confident speaker was once nervous.
Every skilled professional was once inexperienced.
Every expert was once a beginner who didn't know what they were doing.
Yet we often compare our first steps to someone else's years of experience.
And that's a very unfair comparison.
Comparison can make growth feel much harder than it needs to be.
Definitely. The more I focused on my own progress, the happier I became.
Not because you were improving faster.
No, because I stopped measuring myself against everyone else.
That's such a peaceful mindset.
It really is. Growth becomes much more enjoyable when you're focused on learning instead of proving something.
And at some point, did you notice your comfort zone becoming larger?
Absolutely. That's one of the most interesting things that happens. The situations that once felt terrifying gradually start feeling normal.
Almost like your world expands.
Exactly. Experiences that once seemed impossible slowly become part of your everyday life.
And then new challenges appear beyond them.
That's the beautiful part. Growth never really ends. Every time your comfort zone expands, new opportunities begin to appear on the horizon.
But with those opportunities comes another important lesson that many people don't expect, and that's what I'd like to talk about next. You know, when people talk about leaving their comfort zone, they often focus on what they might gain.
That's true.
More confidence,
More opportunities.
more experiences.
More personal growth.
But I think there's another lesson that's just as important.
I agree.
What's that lesson?
Learning how to be uncomfortable without immediately trying to escape the feeling.
That's a powerful idea.
It changed my life more than any specific achievement ever did.
Really?
Definitely. For years, I believed that confidence meant reaching a point where I never felt nervous anymore.
But eventually you realized that wasn't realistic.
Exactly. Even today, there are situations that make me uncomfortable.
Such as?
New environments, difficult conversations, situations where I don't know what to expect.
So the discomfort never completely disappears.
Not always. The difference is that I no longer treat discomfort as a problem.
That's an important distinction.
Before, every uncomfortable feeling seemed like a signal telling me to stop. Now I see it as a natural part of growth.
Almost like a companion rather than an enemy.
Exactly.
Let's teach an important word here.
Good idea.
The word is resilience.
Resilience is the ability to recover from challenges, difficulties, or setbacks.
For example, leaving my comfort zone helped me build resilience.
Or, resilience grows through experience.
I love that second sentence.
Me too, because it's true. Resilience isn't something we're born with, it's something we develop.
Through challenges.
Through mistakes.
Through uncertainty.
And through situations that force us to discover strengths we didn't know we had.
One thing I've noticed is that many people wait for the perfect moment to start.
I used to do that all the time.
Waiting until they feel ready.
Waiting until they feel confident.
Waiting until they're certain everything will work out.
The problem is that life rarely gives us perfect conditions.
That's very true.
Sometimes we spend so much time preparing for life that we forget to actually live it.
Wow.
Looking back, some of my best experiences began when I wasn't completely ready.
That's encouraging for anyone listening today.
Definitely. You don't need perfect confidence to take the next step. You only need enough courage to begin.
Another thing many people discover is that growth often happens gradually.
Much more gradually than social media makes it seem.
That's an excellent point.
Online, we often see the final result,
The success story.
the achievement.
The transformation.
But we rarely see the hundreds of small moments that happened beforehand.
The failures.
The doubts.
The awkward beginnings.
The days when progress felt invisible.
Yet those moments are often where the real growth happens.
Absolutely.
Let's teach another useful word.
The word is progress.
Progress means gradual improvement or movement toward a goal.
For example, small actions create progress over time.
Or, progress is often slower than we expect,
That's a lesson many of us need to remember.
especially when we compare ourselves to others.
Comparison can be very discouraging
Why do you think that is?
because comparison shifts our attention away from our own journey. Instead of appreciating how far we've come, we focus on how far someone else has gone.
And that can make our own achievements feel smaller than they really are.
Exactly. One thing that helped me tremendously was learning to celebrate small wins.
Such as?
Speaking up when I normally would have stayed quiet.
That's a win.
Trying something new despite feeling nervous.
Another win.
Having a difficult conversation instead of avoiding it.
Definitely a win.
Small victories may not seem impressive from the outside, but they often create the biggest changes internally.
Because they change how we see ourselves.
Exactly. Every small act of courage becomes evidence that we're capable of more than we once believed.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about growth.
What's that?
The fact that we often discover our strengths after we need them, not before.
That's so true.
We don't always know what we're capable of until life asks us to be brave.
And that's why staying inside our comfort zone forever can be limiting.
Because we never give ourselves the opportunity to discover those strengths.
Exactly. Looking back now, what's the biggest lesson you learned from leaving your comfort zone?
Honestly, the biggest lesson is that growth feels much less dramatic than I expected and much more rewarding than I imagined.
I like that answer. The things I feared most often became the experiences that taught me the most, and many of the opportunities I almost avoided ended up becoming some of the most meaningful parts of my life.
That's beautiful.
I think many people assume confidence comes first and action comes second.
But you've learned the opposite.
Exactly. Action comes first, then experience, then confidence.
One small step at a time.
One uncomfortable moment at a time.
One act of courage at a time.
And before you know it, your world begins to feel much bigger than it once did.
Let's teach one final sentence pattern for today's conversation.
The pattern is, I never thought I could blank until I tried.
For example, I never thought I could speak confidently until I tried.
Or, I never thought I could enjoy change until I tried.
That's a wonderful pattern for reflecting on personal growth.
Definitely.
Before we finish, let's do a little speaking practice.
If possible, try answering these questions out loud.
First question, what is one thing that is currently outside your comfort zone?
Second question, why do you think that situation feels uncomfortable?
Third question, what small step could you take this week?
Fourth question, what have you learned from previous challenges in your life?
And fifth question, what would you do if you were a little less afraid?
Try using some of the vocabulary and sentence patterns we practiced today.
Speaking out loud helps new English become more natural, confident, and fluent.
And conversations about personal growth are wonderful opportunities to practice meaningful English.
Before we end, let's quickly review what we talked about today.
We discussed comfort zones, courage, uncertainty, resilience, progress, and personal growth.
We also talked about fear, confidence, vulnerability, patience, and the importance of taking small steps.
Most importantly, we talked about something many people discover eventually.
Growth rarely happens where everything feels comfortable.
It often begins the moment we're willing to take one step beyond what feels familiar.
You don't have to be fearless.
You don't have to be perfect.
You don't have to have everything figured out.
You only need enough courage to take the next step.
Because a comfort zone may feel safe.
But a meaningful life is often waiting just beyond it.
And that's our question of the day. What's one thing you'd like to do outside your comfort zone this year?
Write your answer in the comments.
You can begin your sentence like this. One thing I'd like to do outside my comfort zone is...
We always enjoy reading your thoughts.
Keep learning.
Keep growing.
And remember, learning English is a journey.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.